All right, welcome to our deep dive today.
Yeah.
We've got a pretty unique piece of source material to go through.
Yeah.
A chatbot conversation all about how to build English vocabulary.
Interesting.
It's not like just a list of words or something.
Right.
This chatbot's using some pretty smart strategies.
Yeah, it's kind of like a digital tutor, isn't it?
Right, exactly. So it starts with someone asking the chatbot,
Yeah.
hey, I need help with my English vocabulary.
Okay.
And the chatbot, like a good teacher, starts with the basics, focusing on those everyday words and phrases
Mm-hmm.
and pushing active listening and building the habit of regular speaking and reading and writing, all those things that are super important.
Yeah, what I find really interesting is how the chatbot highlights how all those skills are connected. It's not just memorizing words. It's like creating this whole learning ecosystem where everything kind of reinforces each other.
Totally. And here's where it gets really cool. The chatbot doesn't just tell you to memorize stuff. It immediately wants you to use the words in real conversations.
Right.
All about putting things into practice,
Yeah.
which just makes sense, right?
Think about it. When you try to learn new words just by looking at a list, it doesn't really stick, does it?
No.
But when you use it in a real conversation, then it clicks.
Yeah,
So that's what the chatbot is doing, pushing for that active learning.
exactly. Now, a big chunk of what we have here is these word lists with meanings and examples.
Okay.
But even the lists aren't just random. You know the first set of words it gives.
Let me guess. Something simple.
Amazing, kind, understand, happy, friend. Anything stand out to you about those?
Well, they're all pretty common words. You'd use them every day, right?
Yeah.
But what really strikes me is they're all positive words.
Yeah. I was wondering if you were going to pick up on that.
It seems like the chatbot chose those on purpose.
Now, wait a minute. While I agree, starting with positive words is usually a good thing, isn't it important to learn some negative words too?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, you'll definitely need both positive and negative words in real conversations, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's something to be said about starting with the positive stuff, especially when you're just beginning.
It's like a confidence boost kind of thing?
Exactly. When you start learning a new language, it can be a bit scary, right?
Oh, yeah.
Making mistakes, feeling self-conscious.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you start with positive, encouraging words, it can actually boost your confidence, make you more motivated, and make the whole process more enjoyable.
So setting a positive tone right from the beginning. Okay, I like it. Now, the user in this conversation keeps asking for more words, and the chatbot keeps giving them new sets.
Okay.
What's really neat is that the words get more and more complex as you go.
Oh, so it's a gradual progression.
Uh-huh.
Like it's mimicking how we naturally learn languages, right? Starting simple and then building up to those trickier words.
Like building a tower, brick by brick.
Yeah.
And this approach, it's called scaffolding. It's really effective because it stops learners from feeling totally overwhelmed.
Makes sense. So, from simple to more complex, this chatbot's building a solid foundation. But it doesn't just stop there.
Right,
It really pushes the user to actually practice using those words in all sorts of activities.
So that's where it all comes together, right? The actual learning.
Yeah.
The chatbot suggests writing sentences, paragraphs, even combining opposite words like active recall, application, all those key learning principles we've talked about.
Exactly.
We all know how frustrating it is trying to memorize words from endless lists.
Yes.
How do you think this chatbot's approach tackles that problem?
Well, I think it makes the whole thing more engaging and interactive. Instead of just passively reading, you're actually using the language, which helps those words stick.
Right.
It's like trying to learn how to ride a bike just by reading about it versus getting on the bike and actually pedaling. That's a great analogy. This brings up a really interesting point about AI and education. Remember we talked about the limitations of AI?
Yeah.
I was thinking, could becoming too reliant on these tools make it harder for us to learn on our own?
That's a really good question.
Mhm.
I mean, having access to this kind of personalized instruction, it's amazing, right? But could it make us too dependent on technology?
It's like a balancing act, isn't it?
Yeah.
Definitely something we should explore further.
For sure. We're really just starting to scratch the surface here. But even in this first look at the chatbot, we're seeing some really cool insights into how AI can be used to teach vocabulary effectively.
Absolutely. So far we've been looking at how this AI chatbot helps you learn new English words.
Yeah.
But we can't forget that there's more to language learning than just, knowing a bunch of words. It's about actually using those words to say what you want to say.
Right. Being able to express yourself.
Exactly. And that brings us to grammar.
The big G word.
Right. And what's interesting is the chatbot in this conversation doesn't really talk about grammar rules directly.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of tiptoeing around it.
Right. It might seem like it's missing something, but I think there's a reason for that.
Okay, I'm listening.
Remember, the chatbot, the main goal here is to help people build their vocabulary and become more fluent, especially beginners.
So are you saying that throwing a ton of grammar rules at someone right away could actually be a bad thing?
Yeah, kinda. It's like trying to teach someone to run before they can walk.
Okay, amazing.
Master those core words first, and then you can start adding in the grammar.
Right.
And here's the really clever part. By giving all these examples of how to use the words, the chatbot's actually introducing grammar concepts without directly teaching them.
So it's like sneaky grammar lessons.
Exactly. Like, for example, look at how the chatbot uses the word amazing.
Okay.
It gives examples like, the view from the mountain is amazing.
Right.
Or, she did an amazing job.
So without saying it outright, the chatbot's showing you how to use adjectives.
Yeah, and how to build simple sentences.
Oh, and even the basic word order in English.
Right. It's a really cool example of how AI can make learning more intuitive and engaging.
Now, you mentioned earlier that AI can't fully capture all those little things that make human interaction special.
Yeah.
How do you think a human tutor would handle this part of language learning?
Well, a good human tutor would definitely introduce grammar concepts, but probably in a more interactive way.
Okay.
They'd have conversations with the learner, correct mistakes as they happen, and adjust their teaching style depending on the person.
Right. And they can provide that human connection, which is something a chatbot can't really do, at least not yet.
Exactly. A good tutor can offer encouragement, motivation, and that personalized touch that can really make a difference. Think about those aha moments you have when you learn something new, those moments of real connection and understanding.
Oh, yeah. Those moments are the best. They make learning fun and memorable.
Exactly. And while AI can definitely help with learning, it's important to remember that language is really about connecting with other people.
Yeah. Sharing stories, expressing emotions, building bridges between cultures.
It's about bringing people together. And that's not something a chatbot, no matter how smart it is, can fully replicate.
But this brings up another point. Even with the best AI tools and the best human tutors, learning a language still comes down to the learner, right?
Absolutely. You can have all the resources in the world, but if you're not putting in the effort, if you're not using the language, you're not going to get very far.
So motivation and a willingness to try new things, those are the real keys to learning a language.
Couldn't agree more. As we move into the final part of our deep dive, I want you to think about your own language learning journey.
Okay.
What's been helpful for you?
Yeah. What challenges have you faced?
And how do you see AI tools like this chatbot fitting into your approach to learning English? Keep those thoughts in mind as we explore these questions further in the last part of our deep dive.
All right. Welcome back to the last part of our deep dive into this chatbot conversation about learning English. We've talked about a lot, from how the chatbot teaches vocabulary to the role of AI in education.
Yeah, and we've touched on how important human connection is in learning languages, but
Yeah.
I think we should explore that a bit more.
I agree. Because even with all the incredible technology we have, we can't forget that language is, well, it's a human thing.
Right. Think about why you are learning English, Is it to connect with people from other cultures, to travel the world more easily,
Yeah.
to enjoy movies and music and books in their original language?
Those are some pretty strong reasons.
They are.
Yeah.
And they show that language isn't just about grammar and vocabulary lists,
Right.
It's about communication, making connections, and understanding each other.
It's funny. When I first started learning languages, I was so focused on memorizing all those verb conjugations and grammar rules. But I really started making progress when I focused on actually using the language to talk to people.
I think a lot of people have that same experience. It's in those real conversations, those real connections, that the language really comes alive.
It's like that moment when you tell a joke in another language and everyone laughs.
Yeah.
Or when you have a deep conversation with someone from a different culture and realize you've, like, bridged this gap you didn't even know was there.
Right. Those are the moments that make all the hard work worth it. So how can you create more of those moments in your own language learning?
Well, don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah, everyone makes mistakes. It's part of learning.
Exactly. Mistakes are how we learn. And try to find opportunities to actually use the language,
Right.
Join a language group. Go to cultural events.
Find a language partner.
Yeah, someone who can push you.
Exactly. And remember, it's not all about speaking. Listening to music, watching movies, reading books, all these things can help you immerse yourself in the language.
Yeah, you start to get a feel for
The
it.
rhythm, the nuances,
Yeah.
things a chatbot can't really teach you.
So to wrap up our deep dive, think about how you can bring more of that human element into your English learning.
Yeah. Embrace the challenges, enjoy those little victories, and remember why you're doing it.
It's about connecting with people. The world is full of amazing people and experiences, and learning English can open those doors for you.
So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep connecting. That's what it's all about.